The NFC North wildcard showdown between the Chicago Bears and Green Bay Packers might have more implications than you think. And who will win the battle between Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence? The Ultimate NFL Pregame Show starts right now.
It's the Ultimate NFL Pregame Show. Every team, every game, every angle. The local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network going head-to-head on every matchup. It's the Ultimate NFL Pregame Show. Unprecedented insight, unrivaled passion, and unsurpassed knowledge. It's the Ultimate NFL Pregame Show. The Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Wild Card Weekend is here, and we've got everything you need to know heading into the weekend from the local experts across the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher, and from the primetime game of Texans and Steelers on Monday night to the big 4 o'clock matchup on Sunday. And that's going to be a good one between the Eagles and the 49ers. To why that 1 o'clock game between the Bills and the Jaguars on Sunday, it's going to have some importance. We're going to go game by game to make you the most informed fan for game day. Playoffs officially here. Super wild card weekend, and there is so much to talk about here on the Ultimate NFL Pregame Show. Thanks so much for being here. Today's episode of the Ultimate NFL Pregame Show is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. All right. I'm excited for this. We got wildcard weekend. We're going to go 2-2-2. We're going to group these games up into segments of 2, and it makes it easy for Saturday because there are 2 games on Saturday. We'll start off with the Rams and the Panthers. The Panthers, they win the NFC South. Meanwhile, the Rams, they're going to look to pick up a big win on the road. So, Travis Rogers of Locked On Rams, Julian Council of Locked On Panthers, get ready for game day.
All right, Travis, back here on the show, looking at this game on Saturday again. Carolina gets that big win, Week 13. They were big underdogs then. They're big underdogs now, and you would think they feel a little bit disrespected. Maybe they do internally. They're not letting us know that they do. A lot of these guys are like, yeah, Nick Scott said it. That's the gambling, the lines. That's for the fans. That's for the media. That's for we don't care about all that. We're going to go out there and do what we got to do. What do the Rams got to do to prevent yet another letdown? And I think would probably be maybe one of the worst losses of the McVay. And I don't want to take anything away from Carolina,
you're
obviously,
right.
But I feel like
No,
probably
you're
one of
right.
the worst losses of the McVay era if they lose this game.
I don't think there'd be any question. I think because it's a playoff game and yeah, I get it. You're on the road and you'd always rather be at home. But this is a game that if the Rams play, I don't even want to say play well or just play good, they should win this game. They have more talent. They have more experience. They have the pieces that you should be allowed. But, quite frankly, that doesn't always matter. It doesn't always translate like that. We saw it a few weeks ago. I think one of the things for me, I mentioned Kevin Dotson a minute ago. I think that's a big deal. Does Devontae Adams, what does he look like? It's going to be the first time he's played in about a month. We haven't seen him. The Rams are a very different team when he plays. Now, they were still able to score points when he wasn't there. Puka just went bananas. He was just fantastic. He's something else. I knew he was good, but man, he's way better than I thought he was.
That the one-handed catch that he had against Mike Jackson. I mean, Mike Jackson had a great game with the pick six, but that catch, I'm sitting out there in the press box like, how in the world can that dude make that play?
Yeah, he's something else. So, if those guys perform near expectation, I think it's really good. I mentioned this briefly. I think that the Rams, it's funny. The Rams finished the season 12-5, and you don't have to squint to think about the Rams kind of running the table. Their 5 losses all came down to a couple of plays. They didn't get hammered once all year long. Philadelphia had a couple of block kicks. San Francisco, they got stuffed on 4th and 1 from the 11-yard line going for it in overtime. They lost to Carolina. We've talked about, obviously, with the weird plays that happened there. Seattle had to get 3 2-point conversions and one of them in overtime and the weirdest 2-point, like a bunch of weirds. That Atlanta, even though Stafford had his worst game of the season, the Rams had a chance to win that game at the end. That one was a weird one. So the Rams have been in every single game where they've played well, but the one thing they haven't had to do is make a special teams play under pressure and have it go their way. They had a chance to win in Seattle, and Harrison Mevis, he's been really good. They canned Josh Carty a few weeks ago, and they put Mevis in there, and Mevis has made every kick he's tried except for the one that had some pressure.
And it mattered.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things, until I see you make one where it matters if you make it or miss it. Making a field goal in the first quarter when it's 10-7, okay, there's a lot of game left, but make it and we win, miss it, we lose. Well, he missed that one. So the deeper in the game it gets, the closer it is, the more pressure obviously that gets put on Mevis' shoulders. So I think the Rams need to get a lead. I think they need to put the ball in Stafford's hands and keep their offense on the field as long as possible. I think those are the keys for the Rams to come home and get a chance to play in the second round.
Harrison Mevis, the thicker kicker, was actually here a couple of years ago in camp. And it's interesting to hear that, because you're right. The one kick he had to make with pressure, he missed. And back at Mizzou, he was known for making kicks in those pressure spots. Remember, he hit a 56-yard or something crazy against Kansas State in one of those walk-off wins. And they had a couple other ones against South Carolina as well. So, yeah, we'll see if the thicker kicker can have a pseudo-revenge game. Not really. On Saturday, if they call him to go out there. For Carolina, they're going to have to finish drives. This is not going to be a game where you can just settle for field goals. Dave Canales showed his aggressiveness. And he's talked about, depending upon the opponent, like against the Packers early in the year and, of course, against the Rams last time, they went for it. And they went for it all on those fourth down and shorts to Coker and to McMillan, scoring some touchdowns. So they're going to have to finish off these drives. The Rams are 7th in the red zone. Carolina's 24th. So Carolina's got to just play for 4 downs, try to get 6 points, and extra point on the board there to win this game. It's going to have to probably be 30+ for them to win. They're going to have to find a way to run the ball. They went from being the number 3 rushing offense, just total yardage wise, in the first 9 weeks of the season, to the last 9 weeks of the season being 30th. I don't know what's happened, whether it's just been the offensive line that's been, there's guys been banged up, there's been shuffling around, but they have not been a complete disaster. They've got to find a way to start moving furniture, putting a hat on a hat, and allowing Rico and Chuba, who I'm sure they're all dealing with something, but you've got to find a way to have success here. And the last time they did run the ball well to both of those guys was in this game in week 13. And we've seen with the Rams, they struggled against Seattle. They certainly struggled against Atlanta, stop the run. That would be a path for Carolina. You don't want to put everything on your quarterback, also knowing it's going to be adverse conditions with the rain. And in number three, turnovers. That was the story of the game last time, and it potentially could be the story of the game again. Good or bad for Carolina. The Panthers were able to not turn the ball over at all. They've had problems doing that at certain points of time, like on Saturday in that game against Tampa, where the weather was also bad. Now, the hope is that Dave Canales is not going to be calling a flea flicker from the 20-yard line with the running back who, by the way, I was in there, and I just asked Rico, because he had trouble with his footing on Saturday in that game against Tampa. And I asked, all right, with the cleats, what kind of cleats do you wear in the rain on field turf and in grass? And he mentioned the changes. And he also mentioned that he went out there in his regular cleats in Tampa Bay. I don't know how that equipment how that happens. But hopefully they'll wear the right equipment as well. So let's put that as a key to victory as well for Carolina. But turnovers, like the slipping on the whole flea flicker call, that cannot happen. Interceptions for Bryce Young cannot happen if the Panthers want to win this game. So really, if they can just be 0-0 in the turnover margin, that would be totally fine for Carolina. Anything other than that, whether it's on the negative side or the plus side, could be to their demise or to their glory on Saturday afternoon/evening here in Charlotte.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of the same thing for the Rams. If the Rams, either get a draw or a win in the turnover department, I have a hard time envisioning the Rams, taking it away a couple of times and losing. I just doesn't really add up. I think that the way that they're going to get in trouble is almost exactly the way they got in trouble in week 13, is that Matthews, and he's had a great season. I'm cautiously optimistic that he is going to win the MVP. I think he deserves to win the MVP, but the last month of the season was the least prolific he had been throughout the course of the season. He was much better on Saturday or Sunday, I should say, against Arizona. But again, it's Arizona. It's week 18. There's a lot of weird stuff that goes on there. So we'll see whether or not they got it all squared away. I do know that Sean McVay, I am a leading disciple in the church of Sean McVay and getting his guys ready to play in big moments. So I don't think that there's going to be any of this, we got it sort of situation. I think they're going to come out real sharp, real focused, and I expect them to play very well.
Julian's over at Locked On Panthers. Travis is over at Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Packers and Bears, NFC North rivalry. These two teams gave us a show a couple of weeks ago. They are back. And Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, this Green Bay Packers team, and the Chicago Bears team, they're looking for big wins in a divisional rivalry. So Lauren Cox of Locked On Bears and Peter Bukowski of Locked On Packers talk about which one of these NFC North teams will advance to the divisional round.
As we continue our crossover Thursday, Locked On Packers, Locked On Bears podcast, I want to thank you again for making Locked On Bears or Locked On Packers your first listen of the day. We really do it for you everydayers that are tuning in 5 days a week and now tuning in for your third Bears-Packers crossover of the season. It feels like, Peter, like I don't want to be redundant and talk about like the same things we've talked about in some of the other matchups as far as like, yes, both teams are trying to run the ball and control the clock, and the Bears are going to want to generate turnovers and get Jordan Love to make some kind of mistake, or the Packers offense to have those self-inflicted wounds. But it does feel like, at least from a defensive perspective, that's kind of what it comes down to Chicago. Like if the Packers are on their P's and Q's all game and really don't get in their own way, they're at least going to get field goals consistently on drives. And if they can finish in the red zone, I know that's been a little bit of a challenge for them, then they're going to have a lot of points. And it's a shootout that the Bears will struggle to catch up with. But I think the one sign of encouragement I found this week was that I read that Nathaniel Hackett visited Packers practice today. So well, their offense, it's that guy hanging around town.
Well, you know what? The last time this red zone offense, I mean, not the last time, because this has been a good red zone offense in general this year. They had a bad stretch there where they go 2 games where they don't punt and lose both games because they could not score consistently in the red zone. They took the collar in the Broncos and Bears games combined. But in 2020, they had a name for it with Nathaniel Hackett. They called it the gold zone because and this is true, they watched Austin Powers Goldmember and he always said, "I love gold." And it became a thing. And so like there were multiple times you could actually hear on the broadcast, they would score and you'd hear someone, they'd look up to the heavens and scream, "I love gold." It was like a running bit. And that was Nathaniel Hackett. He was the red zone and third down guy in 2020. That 2020 Packers offense is probably the second or third, I think it's second best Aaron Rodgers season of his career. A historically good, you look at points per drive, historically good offense, in part because they were just money in the red zone. That's why the Josh Jacobs thing is so important for them, because Josh Jacobs, like Jordan Love, if they did the Matthew Stafford thing where I think he has 16 like 1-yard touchdowns this year, that was Aaron Rodgers, by the way, in 2020. He threw less than 5-yard touchdowns. Like he had like 20 of them. The Packers run the ball inside the 5 and they are really, really good at it. Josh Jacobs inside the 5 is just money. It's why his fumble was so out of character for them. And so this is a situation for the Packers where getting that guy healthy, I think really is a salve for your red zone issues. He was hurt against Denver, playing hurt. And then, was even more hurt, I think, against the Bears. And so that's why him being off the injury report this week is really an important thing for them, because to me, you're right. This game is as simple as don't turn the ball over and be mildly effective in the red zone. And I think you give yourself a really good chance. From a Bears perspective, I mean, I wouldn't think they would change too much. Like they had the game in both cases come down to 1 or 2 plays at the end. If you're the Bears, like, don't you just feel like we're just going to try and keep doing what we've been doing and hope we play a little bit better than we did last Sunday against Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to keep doing what you were doing in the first 3 quarters.
Right.
Right. Like you do, like, yes, there's a trust that like, hey, no matter what, they'll be able to figure it out by the end. But the idea is that you don't want to keep putting yourself in those positions to do so. And I think a lot of it is kind of
it wasn't like they played out of character, though. They just didn't execute.
Well, exactly. So like just start. Okay, I see what you mean. Like you don't have to have a new plan. You just have to do that plan.
Right.
Yes. But I think a lot of what the Bears need to do is kind of like
easier said than done in a playoff game.
Well, yes. But I think it's the matching inverse of what you talk about for Green Bay in terms of like, the Bears have been terrible between the 20s, but pretty darn good at stopping in the red zone and holding you to field goals. So they got to keep doing that. They need Green Bay to make a mistake. And then like the other big factor the last few weeks is like the time of possession game. The Bears have just not been able to get off the field defensively and really like stay on the field offensively. So then the defense gets gassed and starts playing even worse once you get into the second quarter. Like, so they just need the offense. You don't have to score touchdowns on your first 3 drives, but if you can just get it to be a, 8 or 9 play drive and take some time and run the ball a little bit more and take some time off the clock and keep Jordan Love and the Packers offense on the sideline. Like, that's been such a big weapon for the Bears offense at times this season that has been missing the last couple of weeks. Like, and if you can just slow things down that way and then play your best ball in the second half and in the fourth quarter, I think that's the formula to victory here. But I certainly think both of these teams are inconsistent enough that it's hard, at least lately they've been inconsistent enough, that it's hard to trust that like either one's necessarily going to do exactly what they are supposed to do and set out to do as a pretty clear plan to victory.
I think if you're the Packers, you look at what the Lions did last week and you go, that's exactly why we lost the second game. Like, from a Packers perspective, they're watching that Lions game going, they did all the same stupid things we did. And like, I was looking at the numbers. The Lions averaged 6 yards per play in that game. That would be like top 5 around the league if that was your year-long number. It's 1 for 4 in the red zone. And Jared Goff had 330 yards in the game. And you're just sort of like, if you average 6 yards per play and you get into the red zone 4 times, and the other team, by the way, gets into the red zone once, that was the Bears, you have to win that game. And frankly, you should win that game by 10 plus. And I think if you ask Lions fans or the Lions players, they would go, we should have won that game by 10 plus.
I agree.
You might ask Bears fans and they might say the same thing. Like, it was that game. It was the Bears were lucky to be in it at the end, just because like I thought the Lions controlled that game really from start to finish. But this has been the problem playing the Bears for the Packers in 2 games. I have been saying on the show all week, the Packers have outplayed the Bears for 118 of 120 regular minutes, and they're 1-1. And so that's frustrating. If you're a Packer fan, you're like, well, it's like the John Lovitz, I can't believe I'm losing to this guy. Cause you're like, we from a Packers perspective, they're going, we're better than this team. And they got us because we did stupid stuff. Lauren, I wish I could sit here and tell you that would change on Saturday. It hasn't changed all year, really. Like, the Packers' biggest enemy, the Packers' hardest opponent to overcome, has been wearing green and yellow all year. Like, they have been their own worst enemies. And so that is why, from that perspective, I sit here and I go, if the Packers play their A game, I don't think the Bears have an A game to match their A game. I just don't. But we haven't really seen a Packers A game this year. So how can I confidently sit here and predict an A game from the Packers? Like, I do think there's a scenario where the Packers win this game by 10 points. How can I predict that, though? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where and that's the frustration with this team. And that's where, bringing this back to your original question on Matt LaFleur, that's why fans are frustrated with Matt LaFleur, because they know how good this team looks at times. And it's just like, can you stop having the dumbest penalty at the dumbest time? And some of it has been a little unlucky, right? Like, go back to the second game. It's 3rd and 20. And Warren Brinson, if he gets his hand 6 inches down Caleb Williams' body, even if he doesn't sack Caleb Williams, and it's not a face mask, the game might be over. If he has to throw that ball away instead of taking the face mask, now it's 4th and 20, and they end up scoring, and the game changes because of it. If they have to punt the ball away, they're probably not getting the ball back, and the Packers win that game, and everything is different. So I still think that the Packers are going to win this game. I have been saying since the second Packers game, I was like, I want to see that team again. And I think the Packers are going to play a very, very, very motivated brand of football. And I think the reason that we talked about in the middle, the sort of the anxiety that will be in that stadium if the Bears don't get off to a fast start, and given how often they have gotten off to slow starts, I think you just sort of combine the urgency that the Packers organizationally have. Like I said, week 1, I told Matt Derry, I said, I think the Packers need to win this game more than the Lions, and that's why they will. Sometimes it comes down to stuff like that. And I just think there is going to be an intensity gap and not a focus gap even, but just sort of like an anxiety gap that is going to be difficult to overcome. Plus, I just think the Packers have the better quarterback, and sometimes these games come down to that. And so I think Caleb Williams can get there. I just don't think he's there yet. So I'm gonna take the Packers. Probably not surprising to anyone listening, Bears fan or Packer fan. What do you got?
The Packers like stat thing that has been living rent free in my head all week is I think you retweeted it, or I don't know if you tweeted or retweeted it, that the Bears have not beaten Jordan Love when he's finished the game that he started. Like when a Packer started,
we haven't beaten Matt LaFleur in a game where his quarterback started and finished the game.
That one has been hard for me to shake, and I haven't been able to like refute it, right? And be like, well, it's like, no, that's a really good point. I think if there was ever a situation where you're taking a Packers team that you could beat with their quarterback starting and finishing the game, it's the inconsistent one we're seeing right now.
You're right. You're right.
But there is not an outcome in this game that's going to surprise me. If the Packers win by 10, I wouldn't be stunned. If the Bears win by 10, I wouldn't be stunned. If it's an overtime game, I won't be stunned. Like I could really see this going.
I don't know if like my heart can handle an overtime game, Lauren. I don't know if I can do that.
I think we'll get some excitement. We'll get some theatrics. I
can't wait. This is why we love sports. Like games like this are why this is a blood and guts, heart and soul, mouth, like heart in your throat for 60 minutes kind of game. And I don't think anyone is going to go into the offseason feeling great. I really like, I think it could be that kind of like, unless the Packers, or I don't think either team, I really don't think either team is going to win by like 14 and it's comfortable in the fourth quarter. I think this is going to be gut wrenching for both sides. This is one of those, like, you know, make sure you have enough alcohol on hand when you're watching kind of game.
I will formally officially say I'll take the Bears, but I don't feel confident in picking either team.
Peter's over at Locked On Packers. Lauren's over at Locked On Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up for the second part of the show, we'll move into Sunday's action. A couple of awesome games there. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty coming up on the Awesome NFL Pregame Show. Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto, all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself. Expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Back here on the Ultimate NFL Pregame Show, Kevin Ostreicher still here with you, talking about Wild Card Weekend. Great matchups all across the board. I am absolutely pumped up. We're going to now dive into the Sunday action. We just talked about Saturday's two games. Let's start off with that 1 o'clock matchup. Trevor Lawrence versus Josh Allen, Jaguars versus Bills. I'm really excited for this game. Two high-powered teams looking to advance the divisional round. Jacksonville, an up-and-coming team. The Bills, Josh Allen, they're looking to maybe make some more noise than they have in previous years in the postseason. Maybe get to a Super Bowl with no Patrick Mahomes in the fold this year. Joe Marino of Locked On Bills and Tony Wiggins of Locked On Jaguars take you through keys to victory and so much more.
All right, join the Everydayers Club for your favorite team, in this case, Locked On Bills and Locked On Jaguars, just for a $5 fee. That's right. If you're an everyday already, you're going to always get what you get from us already. But the Everydayers Club will give you access to audio shows that are ad-free, and even our merch store. Everybody sees me with these beautiful Locked On shirts. Well, you can actually access that yourself. Make sure you join the Everydayers Club. It'll be in the description for the show that you watch or listen to. Joe, what's your impression of Trevor Lawrence prior to Liam Cohen and since Liam Cohen has arrived?
Well, Trevor Lawrence, go back to Clemson. This is one of the most decorated quarterback prospects coming out of college, a guy that so many people thought very highly of in the NFL. And then I think some organizational missteps kind of took away from his early development. You can't hire Urban Meyer, man. You just can't do it, right? Like, You can't do that. And so we're really kind of goofy start, but, you know, even through some of that, you know, John, he was still been productive, right? Over 4,000 yards a couple of seasons. The problem was I just felt like the lows just really overshadowed some of the production, whether it was fumbles, situational errors, not being able to hit some big throws in big moments, drops. I feel like drops have been like a 4-year issue for the Jaguars, and it's kind of taken away from, Trevor Lawrence's development. but I think Liam Cohen has come in and really helped get the best out of him. And look, Liam Cohen's been doing this for years. Go back to Kentucky. He's the only guy that got Will Levis to play well. We saw what he did with Baker Mayfield last year in Tampa. And now this version of Trevor Lawrence, really over the last 8 games, it feels like the best version we've seen of Trevor Lawrence. And so I think the coaching has mattered. And then just really getting the weapons in the right place. And, I don't need to tell you this, but you come into the year and it's supposed to be Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, and De'Ami Brown. It's not that, right? It's Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington, Brenton Strange. And that's how that's kind of stabilized. And I think, Trevor Lawrence, what does he do best? It's that intermediate throw. It's that deep throw that he has. And those weapons are really optimized to work this spots on the field that Trevor's best at throwing the football. You couple that with good scheme and confidence. The biggest common denominator you go to any sport, the highest performing athletes are the ones that are the most confident. I think you're seeing a really confident version of Trevor Lawrence based on things that have improved around him. We know he could play, man. That was never a concern. They're just getting it all out of him.
We have people around here, people that I respect. Trevor's rookie year, they said they need to run everything through him, personnel decisions. And I'm thinking like, no, they don't. He needs to ingratiate himself and be a kid, man, with his teammates. And you don't need to turn the reins of an entire organization over to an unproven player. I liken it to when you hit the lottery. That's when you actually need a financial advisor and a lawyer. You need to learn how to shelter money. You ain't got to do it when you're broke. So they should have insulated him more with more stuff and more resources. And I think that's what the Jaguars are actually doing. And then Liam Cohen is a quarterback by trade, man. So when he yells at him and goes, hey, hit him in the chest, man, let it rip. I think he's the dude that wasn't super talented, but was super smart, played that position, was a coach's son. He's the boy version of the little girl on Remember the Titans. That's who he was his entire life. And now he's just like, dude, you got all that talent. Almost like, boy, if I had what you got. And Trevor has really, really bought into it. And now I've stopped saying right now he's one of the, I do think he is one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the National Football League. And those, you're right, the ebb and the flow, it had a little Jameis Winston, Jay Cutler feel to it. But now he's smooth sailing. And the mistake, even when he makes one, he bounces back really, really quick, and it doesn't last a long time. Speaking of lasting a long time, let me get this. What's the keys to this game, man, and the winning formula for the Bills?
Well, 3 things that I think are critical for the Bills to go get this win. They got to be really diverse with their looks on defense. We talked about Trevor Lawrence is playing really confident football, and so the question the Bills have to ask themselves is, how do you disrupt that? And I think they go to the blueprint that they had against New England. They had won 10 in a row, Drake May, MVP candidate. And, how are they going to overcome that? Well, if you saw the second half of that Patriots game, I think the Bills outscored them 35-10 down the stretch. And literally Drake May did nothing in the second half of that game. I don't think they had a first down, and they really made him look silly. And I think the Bills have to replicate that formula. And how they do it, they were really diverse with how they played defense. They showed a lot of different coverage shells. They disguised their intentions. They used their simulated pressures. They have this spy mirror look on long and late downs that they use to kind of rush 3 and then have a spy over top and create a little bit of chaos to run stunts up front. You got to throw the kitchen sink at him. And, Trevor's a good player. He will hold on to the ball a little bit. And so if you maybe take advantage of that and be diverse and get him thinking a little bit more, get him out of rhythm, I think you got to really throw the kitchen sink at Trevor Lawrence, number 1 on defense. Number 2, and this will be an offensive key for Buffalo, is I think the involvement of the tight ends in the passing game has to be Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. And there's not a lot of holes to poke in this Jaguars defense, but if there's anything I was able to find, they give up production to tight ends. They've given up 100.
Yes.
That's the 6th most in the NFL to opposing tight ends, 1,004 yards and 8 touchdowns. Those are both in the top 10 in terms of most allowed yards and touchdowns. And the Bills are different with Dalton Kincaid on the field. I think I saw a number earlier today where they're over the last 2 years, they're 23-5 with Dalton Kincaid and 4-5 without him. This year they score, I think, 33 points per game with Dalton Kincaid and 23 points without him. They're a different team. And the challenge has been with Dalton Kincaid has just been injuries. And they've been very intentional over the last half of the season to not let him play through injuries. When he has played, he's been on a snap count. And when he goes, the offense is different. And he should be really humming, firing all cylinders in this game. And I think he's got to be a huge part of this passing equation. No, the Bills don't have a number 1 receiver, but they got Dalton Kincaid, who's a really talented pass catcher. That has to be the focal point of this passing game. And you can't sleep on Dawson Knox, who has been a good tight end for a while, and he's been really productive with Kincaid off the field. I think that two-headed monster, if you will, at tight end needs to be really, really involved in this passing game. And then number 3, and this is an offensive key as well, is you got to work those intermediate throws. Like I said earlier, this is a good tackling Jaguars team. They're fast. The second level is unbelievable with Olakun, Lloyd, Jerry, and Jones. You're not gonna really get them to miss a bunch of tackles. You got to be able to buy a little extra time and maybe throw it over their head a little bit and challenge those safeties. I know Antonio Johnson's been really good. Eric Murray, Andrew Wingard, they're good players. Monteric Brown, I think, is really optimized for this scheme. And, of course, we know what Greg Newsome can offer, but they're going to play with vision. They're going to play top down. I think that's where Josh Allen, buying a little time in the pocket, not really working the dink and dunk stuff, and maybe seeing where you can use your arm talent and slot some throws there. I know that they're great at breaking on balls and taking away the football, but I think that's going to be the Bills' best chance to win a little bit here. And Brandon Cooks is coming on a little bit for this team. Josh Palmer is a guy that's kind of optimized to win in that range of the field, not to mention the tight ends. And so I think those intermediate throws in the passing game are going to be the Bills' best chance to move the ball throwing it.
Yeah, something the Jaguars are going to have to watch out for is the Bills have done this. They know, and it's the playoffs. Teams have a way of orchestrating the game a certain way, like minimizing possessions, especially if you're outgunned a little bit. And I think it's going to be a limited possession game. Also, you have to make everything count if you're Jacksonville. So they can't give up anything cheap, the easy scores. They got to make the Bills work for every single thing. I think it's going to be a very close game. The difference for me is going to be the kicking game for Jacksonville. If they get to midfield, they're already in kicking range. They literally did a turnover on downs the other day.
Oh, the Jaguars have a kicker?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Awesome, man. That's probably really helpful,
Yeah, a little Cam Little, man, and I'm telling you, he can kick that thing from St. Augustine. So he has the indoor and outdoor record. He kicked a 70-yarder in the preseason, and he has a 68-yarder and a 67-yarder. He's the indoor and outdoor NFL record holder. So the key is when they've had trouble this year, even in games that they won, when you get in the red zone or you get in scoring range, you have to make it count. So what I'm going to assume is give me 2 touchdowns and 4 field goals. If they get in scoring range 6 times and get to 26 points, I think that is the magic number. And I'm going to pick them to win the game, man. And I'm not doing that as a Jaguar fan. I'm being as objective as I can. I'm going 26-24, Joe.
26-24. So that's the total of, that's 50. The over-under on this game is 52.5. Did you know it's the highest implied over-under of any playoff game this week, which I found to be very interesting because like the Jaguars defense, we've talked all about how good it is. The Bills pass defense has been really good as well. If you go over the last 8 weeks, which I know is kind of the magic number with Jacksonville, over the last 8 weeks, Jacksonville is number 1 and yards per attempt against their defense. The Bills are number 2. These have been really good pass defenses. And so I was a little surprised by that 52.5. More so that it's the highest implied over-under. Listen, I think the Bills have a big challenge on Sunday. I don't know how much experience in Josh Allen helps overcome, I think, some issues on this roster and how well Jacksonville's playing. But, Tony, you done lost your mind if you think I'm picking Josh Allen to go lose this game, man. It ain't going to happen. So, we're going with the Bills here. If you want to go with a score, I think Jacksonville's going to score a little bit. I think they'll get to 27, but give me the Bills 30-27 Bills.
You heard it. Joe Marino is picking the Buffalo Bills, and you know what? If he didn't, I would have to call him and slap him beside. You got to pick him, man. Come on. You can't be picking against them, man.
No, I'm not doing it.
But this is going to be a fun one. Are you going to come down, Joe? Are you going to be in the press box?
No, I won't. I won't be down there this weekend, no.
Right,
which is good for Jacksonville. I've never been to a game that Josh Allen plays in that he lost. So
okay.
So there you go. That's a big, underrated talking point in this game is that I won't be there.
Tony's over at Locked On Jaguars. Joe's over at Locked On Bills, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Next up, 49ers and Eagles. This game, Philadelphia, they've been through some ups and downs this year. Meanwhile, San Francisco, they've been banged up all year, but they put together a heck of a season. Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, really excited for that quarterback matchup. So Louis DiBiase of Locked On Eagles and Eric Crocker of Locked On 49ers talk about which team will come out on top.
All right, we are wrapping up this wild card weekend edition of Crossover Thursday. Eagles, 49ers this Sunday. Going to be a big battle between, like we mentioned already, two of the most consistent teams of the 2020s. I mean, these teams have been to what at this point? 5 NFC titles in the last decade. The Eagles have been to 3 Super Bowls. The 49ers have been to 2. And I think this is going to be a close game, Croc. Like, I don't think this is something where the Eagles have not won many games this year by multiple scores. And with the 49ers and the injuries and being on the road and the way I like some of the matchups for the Birds, I think it's going to be probably a 1-score game if the Niners win this thing. If the 49ers do pull off the upset, for you, like, what are the 3 main keys to victory?
Well, I'll tell you the main key. All right.
Yeah.
And we can put all 3 keys into this one thing.
Sure.
Establish the run game. When the 49ers have been their most successful offensively, you look at the Bears game, you look at the Colts game. Colts had a terrific run defense as well. They ran the hell out the ball with Christian McCaffrey. He averaged 2 of his highest clips per carry in the season. For a majority of this season, the 49ers didn't run the ball very well. It was Christian McCaffrey carrying the ball 20 plus times for 60 to 70 yards, right? Like average low. Heading into maybe the last few weeks of the season, it was his lowest yards per carry in his career. It was at like 3.6 yards per carry. And then he had 2 terrific games. And you just saw how unstoppable the offense was when he's got it going. And that allowed Brock Purdy to get it really going. And Purdy has played well even aside from that. But then boom, you get the run game going. Now he's playing very well. And I think it hurt them last week not having Trent Williams out there. He was hurt, had to miss the games. I expect Trent Williams to be out there this week against Philadelphia, but not having him really hurt the Niners. And then you saw just how stagnant the offensive can be without having the run game. Christian McCaffrey only 8 carries in the game against Seattle, and that's not something the 49ers have done all year. So I want to see Christian McCaffrey get 23 carries, right, and another 6 catches. And he getting his touches up there. I think that spells for a 49ers successful day. So if Monday morning the news is out, 49ers beat the Philadelphia Eagles, I believe it will be because Christian McCaffrey averaged over 5 yards per carry and the 49ers got the run game going.
Honestly, man, I could say the same thing for the Eagles and their keys to victory is Saquon Barkley establishing the run. Both of these quarterbacks play so much better when they can play off the run. For play action, for Jalen, it's the RPO game and the shotgun. So I absolutely agree with that. And the Eagles, like the Niners, are hoping Trent Williams is back healthy. The Eagles are hoping Lane Johnson will be back for this game. He's missed quite some time in the second half of the season with that foot injury. He did return to practice today, so things are looking good, I think, for both of those veterans to return. So definitely a key for the Eagles, too. But I think one of the specific keys that will help get the run game back on track is using more 11 personnel, spreading things out. When they've been running this year, especially in the shotgun and these condensed sets, when they're using 12 and 13 personnel, when they're asking their backup tight ends to run block, Calcaterra, Latu, Saquon Barkley in those formations is averaging under 3 yards a carry. It's just been miserable. So for me, 11 personnel is where this thing works better because Jalen also, I think, runs the football better when it's spread out, empty set. When they're using 11, when he can cut up north-south, he is not, a Lamar Jackson speed kind of runner where he's going to beat guys to the edge a whole lot. So for me, it's formationally, I like 11 personnel. I like some empty set here, spread things out. Their backup tight ends have just been miserable. And if you're going to go with a heavier package, like how about Fred Johnson, who's been starting at right tackle? How about you use him as that extra 6th lineman when Lane's out there at right tackle and you go under center? So I think that's going to be important. And then to me, like early down success. The Eagles have been so bad on 1st and 2nd down, and obviously establishing the run better will help. But the quick passing game needs to find a way to help create easy yards for this offense. The Eagles this year average on 3rd down 7.6 yards to go. That's the 3rd most in football, only behind the Cleveland Browns and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So for me, it's like, I kind of agree with you with what the Niners need. For the Eagles, it's establish the run, spread things out formationally, and find a way to get easier. Shanahan's so good at that of 1st and 2nd down quick passing, and the Eagles have been so miserable at that this year with Kevin Patullo. So that's what I'm watching closely the most, at least on that side of the football.
Yeah, not definitely. The run game for Seattle, I keep wanting to say Seattle Seahawks, but for the Philadelphia Eagles, wrong Birds. All right, for that's a big one. And Peacock and I, we were talking about a little bit, and I'm like, man, Saquon Barkley, that's a guy. If you give him enough opportunities to get to the 2nd level, he's going to take one to the
That's the problem, man. He hasn't got to the 2nd level all year. That's the biggest issue.
Yeah. So hopefully the 49ers aren't the recipe. I talked about that
Yeah.
earlier for an offense that hasn't been able to really get things going. We know what Saquon Barkley can do once he is in the open field. And that's the thing that the 49ers can't allow. Those explosive plays, whether it's with Saquon Barkley or Devontae Smith, right? Or
Yeah.
A.J. Brown. And I know things have been kind of a little weird with the passing game, very up and down this season. But at different times, those guys have been able to have explosive plays through the air. And if I know one thing about the Philadelphia Eagles, I feel like when it's playoff time, that's when they play some of their best football, at least, from what it looks like to us. So the 49ers, they got to figure out right away, make them uncomfortable, get them behind the sticks, make Jalen Hurts have to beat you with his arm, with you kind of expecting the passing plays, as opposed to they got the run game going and now he can throw off of that. That would be a little more disastrous for the 49ers.
And I would say the same thing about the Eagles, like get Brock Purdy behind the sticks. It's very funny how both these teams have such similar strengths and weaknesses, especially on that side of the football. So it's going to be a great battle. Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, A.J. Brown, so many stars on and off the field.
Eric's over at Locked On 49ers. Louis over at Locked On Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up, we will dive into primetime madness Sunday night, Monday Night Football on Wild Card Weekend. Stay tuned. A lot coming your way on the show. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. The Wild Card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. The boosts give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. And the show is brought to you by Rocket Money. Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control. And who has time to track every transaction or hunt down hidden fees? That's where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. I was shocked when Rocket Money showed me I was paying for a bunch of subscriptions I had completely forgotten about. It's already saved me money, and I love how it tracks all my subscriptions and lets me cancel them right in the app with just a few taps. No more hunting down customer service numbers. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/locked-on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Moving along, Ultimate NFL pregame show. Kevin Ostreicher still here with you, rounding out the show. Wildcard weekend, we have officially made it. Excitement is through the roof. We talked about Saturday's action. We talked about some of those Sunday games, and now we're going to round it out with the two primetime matchups of Sunday and Monday. So let's start off on Sunday. The Los Angeles Chargers and the New England Patriots. Drake May, Justin Herbert, Mike Vrabel, Jim Harbaugh, plenty of storylines. Nick Cattles of Locked On Patriots and David Drogemeyer of Locked On Chargers. Get you ready for game day.
David Drogemeyer, Locked On Chargers. That's who he is. Nick Cattles, Locked On Patriots. That's who I am. We appreciate every single one of you as we get ready for the playoffs. Nothing better than the NFL playoffs. All right, David. We've talked about what we've had to talk about, but of course, the ultimate is here now. The 3 keys to victory. I'm not going to give my prediction. David is not going to give his prediction. You're going to have to wait until Friday's episode for that, okay, people? But, David, what are your keys to victory in Sunday night's wild card game for the LA Chargers?
Well, you foreshadowed it a little bit in the ending of the last segment, and it is very much the battle of the red zone. If the Chargers are going to win this game, they have to cash in when they get close. Chargers are ranked 29th in scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Patriots offense has been very good at it, but they've been, kind of middle of the pack as far as offensively, 57% of the time in the red zone, ranking 17th. The Pats may move the ball, but if the Chargers can force some field goals, then they'll have a chance. The Chargers' red zone defense, though, is fourth in the NFL in allowing touchdowns. So they've been very, very good at it. And the Patriots have the third worst red zone defense in the NFL when we're talking about allowing touchdowns. So it is very much, can the Chargers get more creative in the red zone and punch it in and make it count?
Yeah, the red zone defense has been a struggle bus for the Patriots all year long. Really, the saving grace, as I mentioned, is they don't let teams get to the red zone very often, thankfully, because if they did, they'd be giving up 100 points a week. My first key to victory here is make the Chargers one-dimensional. Force Justin Herbert to carry that football team. I think, that Jim Harbaugh wants to go into Sunday night, and I would imagine he wants to run the ball 25, 30, 35 times. Marion Hampton did not practice on Wednesday. We're recording this late on Wednesday night. His ankle situation. Is he going to play? I don't know. But you want to make LA one-dimensional because it's just kind of logical, right? Common sense. The more pass pro reps that you force the offensive line to have on Sunday night, the better for you because the offensive line doesn't do a great job of protecting the quarterback. Now, of course, Justin Herbert does a fantastic job of extending plays off platform, but you've got to make them one-dimensional. And if you look at Justin Herbert's record this season, 30 or more attempts, he's 4-3. When he throws the football under 30 times, he's 7-2. So they're much more effective when you don't force them to throw 35, 40 times, right? So you got to make them one-dimensional. And I also wonder, look, it's going to be a cold night in January in the Northeast. Will that impact things as well? So make the Chargers one-dimensional and see how they react to that. Your second key to victory.
Yeah, I'm not so concerned with the weather. The Chargers had to play the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City in much colder conditions than it's slated to be on Sunday, and they went and clearly out-physicaled them. They beat them up the entire football game and won that game. So, and it's Jim Harbaugh, right? Jim Harbaugh is from Michigan. He understands the elements. He's going to have this team ready to play. For me, it's take care of the football. The Chargers have to play a clean game to win this one. They turned the ball over 4 times against the Texans. The Chargers gave the ball away in 14 of their 17 games this season and turned it over multiple times in 6 games. That just can't happen this week. The Patriots have forced 5 turnovers over the last 3 games. Chargers defense thrives off of takeaways, and the Patriots have turned it over in all 3 of their losses. The Patriots have turned the ball over 7 times in their 3 losses and 9 times in their other 14 games. So if you can get the ball back from Drake May and take it away from him, they are much more likely to lose the football game.
Yeah, I mean, the Pittsburgh game was a stink sandwich. 5 turnovers in that game. It just absolutely brutal to watch. I'll also jump in with turnovers quickly here. I'll jump to, which was my third key to victory technically. But look, LA is tied. You just mentioned the Chargers tied for 7th in takeaways with 23. The Patriots only 16 giveaways. They do a pretty good job of taking care of the football. It's a huge point of emphasis for Mike Vrabel. Honestly, it should be a huge point of emphasis for every coach in football. Yeah. But when you look at these 2 teams, the Chargers are a +2 in turnover differential for the year. The Patriots are a +3. So overall, both these teams have done a good job of either taking it away or taking care of it, whichever way you want to look at it. So I do think, turnovers are going to be gigantic on Sunday night. All right, your final key to victory, David.
Yeah, quickly, it's just the Chargers have to get off to a fast start. I mean, the Chargers aren't really well equipped to play from behind. Outside of the Cowboys game, the Chargers really struggled to start fast offensively, and if they get behind, it will help the Patriots pass rush. So Greg Roman can't afford to have a slow start. Defensively, the first 2 drives against the Texans, they allowed 14 points. And the game before that, the Cowboys scored 17 on their first 3 drives. And the Chargers did an excellent job of making adjustments after those first few drives, but this is a team that is much, much better when they have a lead and they can play to their strengths, which is use their physicality to beat down their opponent and take their will away.
I'm so glad you said that because that's actually my final key to victory is who imposes their physicality and who will impose their will more on the other team. I mean, Mike Vrabel right away this week talking to the media about, what stands out about the Chargers, he immediately brought up their size and their physicality. He knows, he understands, right? So who's going to be the more physical football team? Early down offense, critical. Who's going to get that push at the line of scrimmage? The Patriots They've done a great job with heavy personnel in the run game with 6 offensive linemen. They've gone with 6 O-lineman sets more often as the year's gone on. And Taylor Kyles from CLNS in New England, he posted that when using an extra lineman since week 11, Patriots running backs have averaged nearly twice as many yards per carry and 3 times as many yards before contact. They've scored 9 of their 10 touchdowns with 6 offensive linemen out there. So can they do that against the Chargers? Can they show that physicality, use that extra offensive lineman? Thayer Munford lined up as a fullback a couple times last week as a 6th offensive lineman, just threw him back there. So can they do that? Can they do that? Will the Chargers let them do that? It'll be a fascinating question to see how it all unfolds on Sunday night.
David's over at Locked On Chargers and Nick's over at Locked On Patriots, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Rounding things out is the Texans and the Steelers. The Steelers make the playoffs on a missed Ravens field goal to win the AFC North. The Texans, man, that defense is absolutely incredible. So you have John Hickman of Locked On Texans and Chris Carter of Locked On Steelers talking keys to victory, key matchups, and so much more.
Back here on Crossover Thursday here on the Locked On Podcast Network, Chris Carter of Locked On Steelers here with John Hickman of Locked On Texans. John, we were talking about, you asked about the receivers. I do think a lot of this is going to come down to Aaron Rodgers. There's one guy who I think that the Texans really need to be worried about in this passing attack, and it's not a receiver. It's tight end Pat Freiermuth, because he hasn't gotten a whole lot of targets this year. In fact, he's 4th on I think he's actually 4th or 5th on the Steelers' total targets on the year. And I have been pounding the table for months that they need to get this guy more involved. And whenever they do, he makes some big plays. He did so against the Ravens, 5 targets, 3 catches for like 50-some yards. This is a week where the Steelers got to respect Derek Stingley. They got to respect this pass rush. They've got to respect Kamari Lassiter if he plays. I want to ask you about his availability. But where you can hurt this Texans team is if you can get Pat Freiermuth matched up with like Miles Bryant, if you get him matched up with one of the linebackers, if you can get Pat Freiermuth matched up against those guys, that's got to be a place where Aaron Rodgers hits at least 4, 5, 6 times in this game.
Well, I will say, of the 2 linebackers that we primarily see, if he gets matched up with Azeez Al-Shaair, that won't be good for Pittsburgh. If he gets matched up with Henry To'oTo'o, that may play in the favor 60-40 for Pittsburgh. Maybe actually 70-30 for Pittsburgh, if I'm being honest. And maybe 75-25. Henry T is great at stopping the run, just crashing downhill. He's had his struggles this year in coverage. But talking about the tight end group, Trey McBride had a day against Houston. Brock Bowers had a decent day against Houston. The tight ends this year hasn't necessarily been amazing when they take on the Houston Texans, but there have been moments where they've been able to kind of hurt the Texans defense. So it is something that the Texans need to look out for. Your question, what was your question one more time?
Oh, just what are when looking at how Aaron Rodgers attacks with these different guys, if there's schematic holes where he's going to be able to find, because I don't think this is going to be about Calvin Austin cooking up Stingley or Lassiter with a footwork fire the way he did the Ravens. The Ravens don't have the corners that the Texans do. I think if there's going to be a way for the Steelers to hit on some of those deep shots, it's going to be about finding those schematic holes in the Texans defense and where you might see those being.
Yeah, I think it'll be deep. So right now, Kalen Bullock, who has 4 interceptions on the year, I think his improvement from his rookie year to this year has been amazing. A lot of us don't talk about it a lot. He's been the staple for Houston back deep. Now Houston runs a lot of nickel. Jalen Petrie around a lot of scrimmage. We know that, and I can't wait to see who's going to out hit who in this game. 2 physical teams, right?
Yeah,
but Houston has had communication issues among anything this year that has allowed for those deep shots. Just last week, taking on Alec Pierce, and they ended up cutting Kavon Wallace for this. You see Kavon Wallace cheat down, and it looked like the coverage was supposed to be cover 2, and that got, quote-unquote, Tremont Smith beat, but safety was supposed to be back deep. So communication issues has hurt Houston all year, dating back to the first 3 games of the season where they released C.J. Gardner-Johnson because of some of these communications back deep. If that happens, then that'll be a world of trouble for Houston. Because like you mentioned, for Calvin Austin, it ain't about just getting open right out. Not against Houston, right? And it ain't been that for the Steelers all year. Like, they don't just route guys up to get open.
Right.
But if the Houston Texans have communication errors and issues against that unit that does have speed, then once they get the ball in their hands with 3 yards ahead of whoever, then you can just count that for a big play or to the house. And that is where my true worry is for the Houston Texans defense. Just
Catch and run
errors.
Catch and run is where the Steelers make a lot of plays. They have the second most yards after the catch of any offense in the NFL. And one thing I liken to when I look for styles, I liken the way the Texans play a little bit to the Vikings. And the Vikings were the first time we really got to see this Steelers offense explode for a bit with DK Metcalf. He had that 80-yard catch and run. I was there in Ireland when he pulled that off.
You went to that game?
Yes, sir. Went to that game. I was blessed to be able to go. But it was a great time. Shout out to our friends Sarah and Barry for hosting us. It was the game where I was like, okay, against the pass rush, this can work. And I will also say this Steelers offensive line, and we talked about this more in depth on the Wednesday episode, it's improved. Broderick Jones, the first round pick from 2023, has been out. He's on injured reserve, and I don't expect him back anytime soon. But Dylan Cook, the 4th string left tackle, has come in, and he has been phenomenal. I think he's allowed, 3 or 4 pressures in his first 4 starts total. He's been really solid there. Troy Faltano, the first round pick from 2025, he's been really special. Zach Frazier's been kicking a lot of butt up in the interior. This has to be a game where they come through. And the Steelers, they live off the quick passes. They make it easier on their offensive line. But they have done a great job. They shut out Myles Garrett both times they played him, both the time that they lost and the time that they won. They were able to limit Aiden Hutchinson to, I think, a sack or 2. But this is a game where they need the full line to give Aaron Rodgers time to find those holes and get the Steelers playmakers and chances. Because to your point about the missed tackles, that's where the Steelers live. Jaylen Warren forced 11 missed tackles last week with his ability to just make guys miss. Him and Kenneth Gainwell, Freiermuth down the middle, and then if they can hit on a couple of those deep balls, that's, I think, the Steelers' wheelhouse of how they want to live in this game to keep a balanced attack and get just enough. But make no mistake, John, we're talking a lot about C.J. Stroud and Aaron Rodgers. I do believe this is going to be a rock fight. I don't think the winner scores more than 21, 23 points in this game.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be one of them dog fights. And I think this is the game is made for both teams, right? Like, Monday night, the crazy stat, the Steelers had lost at home on a Monday night and since 91 or something like that.
Yep.
I wasn't even born yet. I may have just been conceived. So, like, this is a perfect conception of a primetime, hard-hitting game. And on one side, you got T.J. Watt who can get after the quarterback, Highsmith. You got them 3 dogs in the middle led by the junkyard dog and Hayward. Then on the other side, you got Jalen Petrie who will knock you out legally, right? With the Guardian cap, he don't care. You got Aziz who would knock you out. You got some hard hitters over there. You got Will Anderson who would chase down that run. And if this is one of those moments where, and I hope it's not for Aaron Rodgers' sake, but if he tries to extend the play because the play needs to be made, Will don't give up. That motor is ridiculous. Daniil Hunter ain't giving up. And so how they get after the quarterback is just relentless. They call it the swarm mentality out here in Houston in the NRG. This is 2 defenses that I think will make the fight. Like, we're going to walk away from this game thinking, man, if the offense could have made one more play against that defense. But we'll probably walk away saying they couldn't because how great both the defenses will be playing. And if I could pick like a star in this game, an X factor in this game, there's no way Kamari Lassiter is going to miss this game. Kamari, one of them dogs, man.
Okay.
And he's a Georgia Bulldog, but he is one of them dogs. And I like the matchup between Kamari and DK, 2 physical guys that will get physical at the line of scrimmage, that will get physical past 5 yards, that will get physical when the ball is in the air. And I would shade Kalen Bullock over towards Kamari's side. All of those short passes, hey, Houston don't allow a lot of like yak yards outside of those explosive plays. Everything underneath, they pretty much come down with it. So I like that matchup between Kamari and DK, and I like Derek Stingley being able to shut down half the field. I don't see Aaron Rodgers targeting him a lot, and that could allow for the Houston Texans front four to just get after the quarterback.
Absolutely.
And
The
stop the run.
Texans, the Texans, I believe, rank 7th. I'm doing some quick count here. I think it's 8th. They rank 8th in yards after catch allowed on the season. They have 1,634 yards there. That's going to be a big part of this game.
John's over at Locked On Texans. Chris is over at Locked On Steelers, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. That's all I have here today on the Ultimate NFL Pregame Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. On the way out, be sure to like and subscribe button in video form and follow along and subscribe in audio form for 5 days a week of NFL content. And of course, be sure to check out all of our teams across the Locked On Podcast Network for all of your insight across the league. But thank you again. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your football. And we'll be back here talking divisional round next week on the Ultimate NFL Pregame Show.